MeidasTouch has caught Donald Trump in yet another scam, this one in Florida, trying to make it look like he spoke at a large crowd size in Ocala, Florida, but in fact he was actually posting the image of a 2-day concert in that area. We've been continually doing rapid response exposés on Donald Trump showing large crowd sizes and trying to inflate the size or claim he's giving speeches in places that he's not. Here's another example of it. Let me just show you what went down. In between Donald Trump posting at 1 a.m., mistrial, mistrial, over and over again in his kind of all caps ranting and raving, Donald Trump posted this. He says, "Thank you, Ocala, Florida. We will make America great again." You see a fairly large crowd there. The first thing I noticed is I didn't see anybody having any of the, Trump flags. They've replaced the American flags now with Trump flags. I didn't see anybody in the audience wearing diapers. Trump supporters now go to these events wearing diapers. By the way, Snopes fact-checked that as true, so you can check that out. I didn't see any pee funnels. I didn't see any of the typical weird stuff I normally see at the Trump event. So I'm like, is he giving a speech there? So I looked at what's going on in Marion County, Florida, which is a red area, pretty deep red area in Florida, kind of in the northern Florida area. I wanted to see if anything was happening in Ocala. Was Donald Trump giving a speech? Because all of a sudden right-wing propaganda accounts started spreading. Look at this massive crowd for Donald Trump. This Wall Street Apes account, which gets heavily promoted in Elon Musk's algorithm for Twitter, now X, posted, "Donald Trump just posted this on Truth Social. This is a massive crowd as far as the eyes can see, ready to make America great again, chanting USA, USA, USA." Then they go, 2024 election's going to be the biggest America First landslide in history. And then all the other kind of MAGA accounts responded, "We got this." 500,000 people in Ocala, Florida love Trump. They just make up numbers. Then this other influencer account, "Look at Trump's massive rally in Ocala, Florida. Let's make America again. Let's effing go," because they like to curse. This Noni account did a whole video, "Massive MAGA rally in Ocala, Florida, support pouring in for Donald Trump." So I just wanted to take a look at what's going on here. So it's actually not a Trump rally. It's not a Trump event. This is a concert that's taking place in Ocala at Majestic Oaks. It's called Rock the Country, and it features a number of bands, Kid Rock, Jason Aldean, Leonard Skinner, Brantley Gilbert, Travis Tritt, Warren Zedris, Gavin Adcock, Alvy Shane, Sadie Bass, and Tripp. I apologize if I pronounced any of those names wrong. And so it's a concert. It's not a Trump concert. It's not a MAGA festival. The woman in the photo that Donald Trump posted is Congresswoman Kat Cammack. And then if you start looking carefully as well, though, you see the MAGA sheriff of Marion County there with her as well, who let her in. And so it's yet another example of Donald Trump turning a crowd that's not there for him into a crowd so he can continue this narrative that he wants to push out. And I've described it as all he's running on is a formula called strong man, weak man paradigm. Just talk about big polls, don't talk about the other polls. Big crowds, don't even talk about the real size. It doesn't even matter what the crowd size are. Just post photos of yourself in front of huge crowds and then let corporate media have this kind of feedback loop over and over again, so they don't actually talk about the issues. They don't talk about how the stock market has reached record highs, how there is record job creation, how gas prices have fallen now in many areas below $3 a gallon, that healthcare prices or the cost of medication like insulin and healthcare costs have decreased dramatically, caps on insulin, that there's over 1 million PACT Act applications that have been processed where veterans are finally getting the health care they need, that unions have received more benefits under the Biden administration than under any administration. And in fact, Donald Trump brought in the most anti-union people to run the National Labor Relations Board, and he was a union buster. But if you just focus on crowd sizes and you just focus on polls that are good, and you ignore the fact that actually President Biden is leading in the aggregate of national polls, but you don't talk about that. You push that message over and over again. It's why it's so important that we continue to call this out here on the MeidasTouch Network. He's doing this quite literally every day, because when Donald Trump actually has to speak, he doesn't speak in sentences. Like, it's rambling. He goes on very favorable right-wing media that feeds him the biggest softballs. Oh, you're being persecuted. What's it like to be so persecuted? And then he even botches those questions. So you don't really mean you're going to be a dictator on the first day? He botches that. You don't really mean retribution, do you? He botches that. Oh, how do you keep your sense of humor? How do you stay so strong? And like, they're giving him these softballs, and then he still is ranting and raving and rambling and not making coherent sentences at all. And then when he does, what does he talk about? Brags about overturning Roe v. Wade. He says he wants to be a dictator. He says a bunch of other very just hateful things. He praises authoritarians. He attacks our democracy when you can actually decipher the words that he's saying. So they don't want that. They just want to post big crowds, big polls, and just repeat that in loop over and over again. That's why we expose it. So, for example, remember in Yankee Stadium, Donald Trump had this like right-wing propagandist guy who goes and sells the Trump flags and makes a lot of money doing it, who's previously posted that he pays people to go with these mugshot photos and post them in sporting events. And then Trump takes those photos and then he reposts them to make it seem like, look, they're putting the big mugshot of Donald Trump banner and they're supporting me in Yankee Stadium. Take a look at this big crowd size, right? One of the things that we caught Donald Trump doing here on MeidasTouch Network too is, and this is what he very frequently does, he walks out and waves to nobody, and then they edit it in a way to make it seem like there's like a crowd waving to him, or he has his staff at Trump Tower or other places. They're the ones who are kind of outside, kind of yelling from. Remember we showed you this video where he walks outside and he waves to nothing. Play this clip.
See you later.
Then remember, we exposed what he was doing, and we said exactly what he was going to do when he went to Charlotte after he was booed at the Libertarian Convention in D.C., and then he went to Charlotte Raceway and he waved to the crowd. He wasn't even near them, and they weren't cheering for him. He was just kind of randomly waving. Here's another example of that. Remember what we call this. I mean, or what it's being, how you can know what it's being framed as, which is the strong man, weak man paradigm. And then what they'll do is they'll try to selectively edit. President Biden will give a great speech, have the MAGA media selectively edit President Biden so that it looks like he can't even sit down, when they're actually manipulating the footage. And so that's one of the things they'll post as well. So I'm sure you remember, this right here, and you see, just take a look at what's on the left and on the right. This is what the kind of RNC pushes, and it looks like Biden can sit down. But if, on the actual footage, when he's in Normandy, he could clearly sit down, and he gave an incredibly powerful speech. But they know, don't let the media publish Donald Trump speeches. Let them publish crowd sizes. Don't let them actually show President Biden's speeches. Just try to find a millisecond where President Biden looks old. Have them focus on Biden's sneakers. Focus on, is he wearing shoes? Is he walking slower? Focus on those types of things so the American people don't actually get the data and information. And that's why there's always the lies about the crowd size, right? Wildwood, New Jersey, 100,000 people are there. No, we knew that there was less than 10,000 people there because we knew that the venue could only hold 20,000. It was less than half full. So it was obvious that anyone saying 80,000 to 100,000 was lying. Yet, corporate media ran with that, and then they had to, later, like after the fact, after the damage was done, they said, oh, actually, it wasn't that. It was the overall people who visited Wildwood, New Jersey that day. Or they try to act like the crowd in the Bronx was big when the crowd in the Bronx was not that big. The crowd in the Bronx was less than 3,000 people. In a city of 8 million, if you can draw only 3,000 people, which is less than the people who attend many high school football games, that's not a big crowd size. So stop with this, stop saying that over and over again. And this is what they do with everything, right? The Chick-fil-A, they show up and then they have a woman who works in the Republican Party give Donald Trump a hug. Then Donald Trump says, look, a black woman's giving Trump a hug in the Chick-fil-A. Therefore, black women support Donald Trump. They do that in Wisconsin. They had a black woman on stage who first opened up her business in 2023, and she lied in her speech and said that her business was thriving under Trump and is now doing bad under Biden. When she first opened her business under Biden, she then attacked immigrants for having food assistance, but then she had food assistance and she declared bankruptcy 3 times in the past decade before she finally was able to open up a small business under President Biden. And so they do these things over and over again. The media just buys into it because it's just a hand-felt narrative. But that's why we're going to keep on calling it out over and over again. This is how they're running the entire campaign. It's their only play. And it's why I've said, and I'll say it again, Donald Trump is not going to be debating President Biden. Okay? I'll be very surprised if he does. I could be wrong. I'd be very surprised if he does, because it shatters the paradigm. You have all the Trump supporters saying, oh, Biden can't debate. What are you talking? Biden destroyed Donald Trump in both debates. One of them, Donald Trump showed up with COVID. The other one, Trump did horrible. And then Trump didn't show up to the third debate. He chickened out. Trump is afraid to debate Biden. That's the reality of it. He gets all these softball. What do you think he's going to say when he's asked actual questions? Anyway, just wanted to flag that for you so you could see yet again what they were doing and what propaganda they were pushing. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers together. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.